Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Illinois Green Party series. I'm your host, David Rich. We have some fabulous guests on tonight. I'm going to let Anna take the reins here and introduce the guests.
Yes, we have Karen, and she is a private citizen. She's going to be talking about aid access. We'll share more information during the show. And then we also have Julie. Julie is from Chicago Cuba Coalition. And we will also be sharing the information for her organization as well. And so these two organizations were part of a larger group of there is like, I think 31 groups that co-sponsored. It was the Abortion and Full Reproductive Rights National Day of Action. And it was March in Chicago on Saturday. And so this is kind of just a debrief of what about the march, why it's important, and then also just I wanted to give a shout out to all of the organizations who co-sponsored this because it was an amazing event, and I'm glad that we were able to be part of that as the Illinois Green Party, and also our 50th Ward chapter also co-sponsored this event as well. So what I would like to do is kind of talk more about why it's personal to you, to each of you, and then I can chime in as well, and then kind of what your thoughts were about the march. Julie, would you like to go first, alphabetical order?
All right, fine. So I just wanted to clarify that. So I work with the Chicago Cuba Coalition, and as a coalition, basically the coalition is made up of individuals and organizations who work around the issue of Cuba solidarity and trying to normalize U.S.-Cuba relations, right? Support of U.S.-Cuba, normalized Cuba-U.S. relations. So this coalition per se does not have a stand or a position on abortion rights, but I, as an individual, am a longtime activist and supporter of a woman's right to choose, because ultimately I feel that is fundamental to not only women's health care and comprehensive health care, but also something that I feel is needed in terms of women's fight for political and economic equality. Because if you don't have control over what happens to your body, you really don't have control over your life and what you can do. So, just in terms of I'll talk a little bit more about the organization and kind of the campaigns that we've done, but specifically how I've kind of got involved was I'm a healthcare worker, and over the years I've witnessed just like increasing costs of healthcare that then impacts access to healthcare, and I mean, in this country, in a one of the wealthiest developed countries in the world, there's still 28 million people who are uninsured and 30 million people who are underinsured, and over 4 million children who don't have health care coverage. So, and then when you look at like just in terms of like the growing gap in access between that's then impacting Black and Brown communities even more. I mean, just as one example of that kind of disparity, maternal mortality rates. So from the National Center for Health provides statistics from 2018 to 2020. And for non-Hispanic white women, 19.3 women die per every 100,000 women. And non-Hispanic Black, the number is 55.3 women die during delivery or during during delivery, basically. So for me, it was kind of like, I guess when I was looking at just what's going on in healthcare, and kind of like seeing the challenges and the impact to women and to the Black and Brown community, I started looking at a bit broader in terms of like, of what's going on in the world, and I learned about and found out about Cuba, and when you look and compare what women have achieved through the course of their revolutionary process, it's night and day. Women have access to abortion. It's guaranteed, and healthcare is guaranteed to all Cubans. And you can see, like, just in terms of like, if you look at just the numbers and healthcare indicators, Cubans' infant mortality rate in Cuba is like lower than 4 per 1,000 births. Infants die, versus in the United States is a little bit over 5.6 or something, according to the World Health Organization. And then when you when you look at like Black and Brown communities, those numbers are even higher. Women have achieved just made important gains in terms of health access to, for example, maternity leave. Women have 18 weeks of maternity leave in Cuba, and that's fully paid time off. And then I remember I was in Cuba and was talking to a woman who was part of our tour group, and she was saying how after she had her baby, she was able to stay home through their healthcare system with getting paid. I mean, it's not full coverage for the whole time that you're off, but there is still, you get paid less than 100% for after the 18 weeks. But she said she was off for like a year bonding with her baby. And at a certain point, she just decided, it was important for her to go back to work. And but the fact that she was able to do that was just kind of like astounding. So I kind of like, I look at Cuba and I see things that are happening that are kind of like in the right direction. They're, and they just recently passed this really progressive family code that went through, they went through 70, like close to 80,000 meetings across the island. There's a little over 11 million people on the island, and they had like 79,000 meetings at local levels talking about like defining what the family is in Cuba. And they did this over months and months and months. And then there was like 20 some different revisions in terms of what the family should be defined as, recognition of same-sex marriage, parental responsibility. They changed kind of language in terms of, instead of parental authority, the language now is parental responsibility, based on kind of like the understanding of like, or wanting to like provide or give the child a developmentally appropriate opportunity to kind of like take more responsibility or have more responsibility in terms of choices in their life. But so there was this pretty big, it's like a big deal in terms of, this initiative. And it was just recently voted on by, like, I think it was like close to 70% of the population participated, and it was approved by over 60% of those that voted in the referendum. And the other thing is that, they've also done incredible work in terms of responding to COVID, with like 95% of the population being vaccinated. So anyway, so I see Cuba as an example, and I kind of like see that in terms of like what we're fighting for here in trying to hold on to what we got, and like basically because women have lost a lot over the years. It's just specifically around the right to choose. It's been just slowly chipped away, and so I kind of feel like what happened, the demonstration that happened, was an important step in terms of trying to get the train back on the tracks, and kind of like really defending women's rights, and specifically a right to choose whether or not a woman wants to have an abortion or not. The one other I don't know how much more time I have. I don't want to keep on.
You're fine.
Fine. Okay. So the one thing I just want to kind of explain again is that the coalition that I'm a part of specifically kind of works around the issue of Cuba. There's general agreement. Look, there's all different kind of organizations that can join this coalition. Individuals can join the coalition. And the general agreement is wanting to do work on solidarity with Cuba, and calling for an end to the U.S., the 60-some year long embargo of Cuba. We've done things like public meetings. We've support different types of humanitarian aid campaigns. Whenever there's recently damage done to a fire in Matanzas, there is damage done because of the hurricane, and there are a number of different humanitarian aid campaigns that are underway that we support. And we build different tours and brigades that go to Cuba so that people can learn firsthand about what's going on in Cuba. And nationally, what's coming up is a week of protest, October 27th through the November the 3rd, calling for an end to the U.S. embargo or blockade of Cuba. And there's 80-some organizations that have agreed to endorse this week of protest. And locally, there's going to be a march and demonstration in New York City. The significance of the week is that November 2nd and 3rd, there is going to be a vote at the United Nations General Assembly on a resolution submitted by Cuba calling for an end to the embargo. And this has gone on for 30 years. The most recent vote last year was overwhelmingly in favor of the resolution. 184 countries voted to end the embargo. 2 countries voted against it, U.S. and Israel. And so there's, overwhelming international opposition to this embargo. It's just immoral, and it's. I think it's illegal, and in my opinion, it's immoral, and needs to end like now. We're having a picket line and press conference November the 2nd down at Federal Plaza at noon, and we have an alderman and somebody from the union who have agreed to be part of our panel, and we're still kind of reaching out and asking people to join this protest. So I was really inspired by the demonstration. One of the things that I thought was really kind of like, something that was, I think, just very hopeful was the number of young people who were involved, who were very excited about being in the streets and being amongst other people who have similar opinions in terms of the right to decide. And I also thought it was, there was a contingent from Iran that came kind of in response to the Kurdish woman in Iran who was recently killed by the by the Iranian police. So, there's a lot of connections going on. And to me, that's so important, because I kind of feel like that's how we move forward, is like making these connections. So I thank you, Anna, so much for inviting me. And hopefully this is kind of like the beginning of as Humphrey Bogart said in Casablanca, this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So that's all I have. That's all. I'll stop at that.
Thank you. Yeah, in the Illinois Green Party, we're all about coalition building with people who align with our values and our issues as well. So, Karen, did you want to go ahead and talk a little bit about yourself, maybe how you got involved, the aid access that you're speaking about?
Sure.
So,
Absolutely.
perfect.
I've always been interested. I always think it's a very women's health is a very important issue. I think oftentimes it gets neglected, or in some cases, I mean, it gets absolutely um, turned on its head, as what has happened with Roe v. Wade being overturned. My goal is to get the word out about aid access. It's a nonprofit group in Europe that consisting of doctors who write prescriptions for anti-abortion drugs, the two drugs that are used to cause an abortion to take place. These drugs are given at no cost or very, very low cost to women who need them. And I mean, specifically, if you live in a state and want to get an abortion and that's illegal in your state, you can contact info@aidaccess.org. And I'm going to spell it out because I want to make sure people who are listening to this know how to access them. It's info@aid access, AIDACCESS.org. They will talk you all through it. And if you go to aidaccess.org website, they have, it's an excellent website. It gives all kinds of information on the group, how they operate, the way they operate, and what's involved. I can tell you that an anti-abortion pill will cost $105, which is considerably below what most for-profit clinics are charging if you are in a state where you can get abortion pills, medical abortion pills. If you live in a state, and this is an interesting thing that I wanted to put out there, if you live in a state that does allow medical abortion, but the cost, my understanding is the cost of this is about $350 at for-profit clinics, and you cannot afford this, you might as well be living in a state where it's illegal. If you simply can't afford it, then it doesn't make a difference. You're not able to get the abortion done. There are many groups out there that assist women to get an abortion. They will offer financial help to do so, and sometimes clinics themselves will offer financial help. But you can go to aidaccess.org and they will send you the pills for $150. They partner with a pharmaceutical supply house in India. The pills are mailed to you with no information on the envelope as to where they came from, so they can be sent to any state. They take anywhere from a week to 3 weeks to arrive. Abortion medications are effective up to 10 weeks of pregnancy, and the World Health Organization says up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. So it's a very viable alternative to women who are pregnant and are not able to access abortion in this country, which is kind of a very sad thing that has now developed, where it's always going to be women of lower income and disproportionately Black and brown women who will not be able to afford abortion. And it's definitely, and this I feel strongly about, abortion is healthcare. It should be a right of all women, and it should be accessible to all women, and aid access helps do that.
Thank you. So I'll just speak a little bit about myself. My name is Anna, and I'm the co-chair of the Illinois Green Party. And when I saw all these organizations coming together underneath this one issue, I was just really, I knew this was an important moment for Chicago. I just sensed that we can come together. Chicago has always been such a hub for protest and the labor movement, Haymarket. And it was for me to be there. And around so many people. I have this one video I was trying to post up, but it was like a tube, like it was like crazy. It was like blocks of people like marching together. I was trying to quantify how many people were there. And one time I was near the front and I just saw all these people like behind me for blocks and blocks. And it was amazing and incredible. And I'm glad it was very peaceful. The safety marshals, they did a really good job of making sure that keeping the people on the one side of the street. It was a good, a beautiful day and weather-wise, which is always great in Chicago because it can go either way at any moment in time. So I'm just very thankful that the organizations were able to get together and do that. And while I have the floor here, what I would like to do is read out the list of co-sponsors that supported this event. And the official event name, in case anybody was wondering, was Abortion and Full Reproductive Rights National Day of Action. It was held at Federal Plaza last Saturday, the 8th, starting at noon. So there were speakers there, and then we got to March. So the list of co-sponsors is AAUW Illinois, Inc., AAUW Naperville IL Area, AIDS Foundation Chicago, Chicago Abortion Fund, Chicago Area Progressives, Chicago Democrat Socialists of America, Chicago for Abortion Rights, Chicago National Organization for Women, Chicago Southside Birth Center, Chicago Teachers Union, Chicago's Women Take Action, Chicagoland Disabled People of Color Coalition, Quartz Manor, Illinois, Democratic Women of McDonough County, Illinois, Equality, Illinois, Everthrive, Illinois, 50th Ward Green Party, Freedom Road Socialist Organization, Chicago, the Gay Libertarian Liberation Network. So that's the Gay Liberation Network. Health and Medicine Policy Research Group, Illinois Choice Action Team, Illinois Green Party, Illinois National Organization for Women, Illinois Single Payer Coalition, Indivisible Chicago Alliance, Indivisible Evanston, Indivisible Illinois, Indivisible Oak Park Area, McHenry County Citizens for Choice, McHenry County National Organization for Women. The next one is in Spanish, so I do apologize. Mayores, Latinas, and Action. The next one is NCJW, the National Council of Jewish Women, Chicago North Shore Section. The next one is National Council of Jewish Women, South Cook Section. And then we had National Nurses United, the Physicians for a National Health Program, Illinois, Planned Parenthood, Illinois Action, Racial Justice Coalition, Radical Women US, Reproductive Transparency Now, She Votes Illinois, Toby's Fund for Reproductive Health Equity, wearejane.org, West Suburban Illinois Democrat Socialists of America, Will County National Organization for Women, Workers' Voice, and the YMCA Metropolitan Chicago. So that's a lot of groups that came together. And I saw people coming in from the streets, and there's this one gentleman in particular. He was just a regular person and just happened to be there while we were marching through, and I saw him come in and take that first step in the protest, and he did a little yay, and I'm just so happy that we had a lot of good positivity that came out of this march. And so when we first got together in, hold on one second, we got a bad comment here for spam. So there was, I don't know, I think like maybe 400 or 500 people who were originally there for the speakers. What do you think, Karen and Julie?
I think that seems about right. 400.
Yeah. And then did you get to see during the march, did you like look back and look forward? Did you like get to grasp like how many people do you think were there?
Well, Linda Lowe, who was one of the main organizers of the event, of the march, she posted on Facebook and she estimated 2,000, which I don't, it's hard for me to do crowd estimates when I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of it all.
I think that was kind of high.
You think- yeah.
I think
I
that
don't know.
that was kind of high. I think so.
Yeah.
But it was a good turnout, and it was a very involved group of people.
Yeah.
I mean, they very responsive
Yeah.
to the speakers.
Yeah. And it was very inclusive in terms of like who was up on the panel, and in terms of like the different points of views that were shared. And I thought it was really kind of interesting because I was talking to one of the other people who were involved in organizing the event, and they consciously decided they didn't want any politicians at this, and they really wanted healthcare providers and organizations that were supportive of women's right to choose and stuff. And I kind of feel like that, to me, that's a reflection of I think they're trying to kind of mobilize the power that's in, of the organizations and the people who, feel strongly about this fight. Right. So what happens next, I don't know. I mean, it's never a done deal. I think part of the challenges after Roe v. Wade was that there was just a big kind of like push into Democratic Party candidate kind of like, support for Democratic Party candidates and stuff like that, instead of relying on women's, the strength of people, kind of like keeping the pressure on to continue to defend women's rights and extend women's rights.
I think a good way, though, to extend women's right is going to be through the political process, getting more people to vote, more women out there to vote, women to vote for candidates who are going to support women's health care, and of course the right to have an abortion.
And to have those some women run as well, and to run for office, and even if they start small, just to get their feet in the water and be able to kind of climb the ladder in the political spectrum, and run for an office that can influence a decision like this. And so a lot of the times it's it's vote for the person, but it's also, to me, from the Green Party, is party suppression is voter suppression. So when it's, Illinois has one of the hardest laws, one of the hardest election, ballot access election out of like the whole country. I know one time we were third. I don't know where we stand now. But I know one time the Green Party were the third hardest, and that is underneath the Democrat Party majority for a long time in Illinois. And like, for example, if I was to run for state representative, I would need 1,500 signature petitions this 2022 round. I actually did try and only got 1,350, but I did try. But the established parties, the Republican and the Democratic Party, they only needed a minimum of 400 each. And so that is one way I cannot be on the ballot access for other people to choose the Green Party, because all Green Party members and candidates, we support this. So it's without question. So there is no, oh, maybe we'll vote for this person and they'll do the right thing. Maybe. No, it's not that way. It's without question, we support this. It's without question, we will do anything we can for the environment in a nonviolent way. So it is nice for me to have a team and a party that can actually have ballot access, or at least try to, and be able to start making these changes through the ballot access, because we need to make sure that we have people who represent us in almost like a green certified check mark, and be like, okay, we know these people are going to do the right thing when push comes to shove. They're not going to they're going to have a backbone when there's environmental stuff. They're going to have a backbone when it comes to individual liberties and abortion rights and women's rights. So it's always holding the line is what I like to refer it as. And so we hold the line, but it would be nice. I do work with other Green Party members in other states, and they enjoy lower ballot access numbers, and I'm kind of a little jelly off of that, a little jealous that they get to have 300 signature requirements instead of 1,500. It's still kind of during COVID. We still had COVID issues during that time. So it is about the voting, but to me, it's also about the running. Because we need to have people who are going to be in office and do the right thing without question.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I want to come back to that number. I think 2,000 might be a number, because I was even thinking more. Because when I was actually a first time experience during this protest. I got up to the front right before we marched, and somebody's like, we need one more volunteer. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you need? And they said, we need you to push this speaker cart. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, we just need this done, and then we can march. And I'm like, okay, I'm your person then. And so the speaker cart was bigger than me. And on this cart, they had like a wobbly wheel, like a grocery cart from the store. And I'm like, so I got way behind. And when they needed this speaker up in front, so somebody came and got me, and they're like, okay, we need to bring this all the way up to the front. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like I got in front of him. I'm like sprinting through, just like on the edge line of the protest. I'm like, media coming through. So that was first time for me to be the pushing the speaker cart. But that was an interesting experience, and so I'm glad that I was able to be the one person to help out in that respect. And so it's all a team effort, right?
Yeah.
Now, Julia, you mentioned you had some upcoming issues already. And then Karen, you gave us, I was having trouble with the banner, but I'm going to try to see if I can still get that corrected for your website. So have you always, and David, you haven't even said anything. Do you have questions, or you want to say something?
I'm just sitting here listening.
Oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I have questions, but that's okay. You guys.
Well, go ahead. Ask a question or two.
See, now you're putting me on the spot here. I just had to dismiss a neighbor because he was coming over to talk to me. Go ahead. Let me collect my thoughts. Go ahead.
Okay. David always has a billion questions. So, how long have you been? And this is for each of you, and we'll start with Karen this time. How long have you been an activist, if that's what you call yourself, or kind of a speaker of rights?
I've always thought abortion was a really important issue. I had one. It was accessible. It was affordable. It was relatively pain-free. I mean, I really feel that supporting women's rights to have abortion is paying back. The fact that I was able to do it, and they made a great point at the march, talking about abortion as being a common procedure. 1 in 4 women will have had an abortion. So, pregnancy might be a complicated issue, but having an abortion, it's a very simple procedure. It can be safe, it can be affordable, it can be accessible, if we're determined to make it that way. And fortunately, we are living in a state where Illinois is a sanctuary now for women in the Midwest who need to have an abortion. And I feel very good that I am in Illinois. This is important to me, and this goes back to the days when I was a clinic escort for Planned Parenthood. And so we're going back many years, doing that. I will say this too. I've done some phone banking for the Democratic Party, and I've called states around the country. And one of the issues that resonate with voters are the rights of women to have an abortion. And that makes me feel good too. I am hoping that this will galvanize voters to turn out in greater numbers to get more pro-choice candidates elected and progressive candidates elected that will affect not just the abortion issue, but issues regarding climate change and the economy and immigration rights and other issues that are just, really important, to a progressive country.
Real quick, I did think of something. Karen, is there any way we can post on the comments section here what you were talking about, the things you get from Europe in the mail?
So you mean the abortion pills?
Yes.
Okay. What information did you want to post on the comment section? And I will.
Well, what the website, I guess, or whatever.
Okay. The website is aidaccess.org. And if you are looking, you want the names of the abortion pills specifically?
Sure. Whatever information I can use to get access.
You take misoprostol, which is MISOPROSTOL. And then the other pill that's a combination of 2 pills is mifepristone, which is MIF as in Frank EPRISTONE. You take 1 pill, and then that will cause the contractions, and then the other pill then will actually involve expelling the embryo out of the body.
Oh, okay, that's very cool. Yeah, no, and it comes like in a male person wouldn't be able to notice what it is.
Exactly. It comes in a regular envelope, and it's private. You can do it in the privacy of your own home. So if a woman is not able to travel to an abortion clinic, if a woman has children, is not able to arrange babysitting, if a woman can't take off 2 or 3 days from her job to travel out of state to get an abortion, she can do this in the privacy of her own home. And that privacy in part is real important.
It's very important. And tampering with mail is a federal offense, so that's protected there. That's very cool. I would like to spread that word around a lot more, because I think people need to hear about this. Yeah, my friends and I used to mail each other certain legally frowned upon substances in the same way. So this is really cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to know that there are doctors in Europe who are reaching out to help women here in America.
Yeah. No,
it's a little sad to know that the United States, which is a beacon of freedom, is not.
Well, I think we still have in this country, we have too many. Well, all right, never mind. I'm gonna step in it if I say what I would think.
Yeah. I mean, there's now going to be developing a network of. We're going to have another drug problem in this country, and it's going to be abortion pills. It's going to be they're now being smuggled in from Mexico, and certain groups are going to try to just distribute them. This is a big problem: getting distribution. They're readily available.
For sure. There's all sorts of unforeseen implications that happen with all these ridiculous legal happenings. Whether it be and it really first of all, it just frustrates me to no end that 5 people get to decide the fate of hundreds of millions of other people.
Yeah, good point.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. The Supreme Court is a ridiculous entity. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a massively inconsistent. I mean, the Supreme Court decided that it was unconstitutional to free a slave. What? Are you kidding me?
Well,
I mean, it's just they go back and forth all the time. It's ridiculous. Again, 9 people don't get to decide anybody's fate. That's just stupid. You have the ability to reason, and you have free will. You can choose for yourself. I mean, to me, rational choice is one of the most precious, most sacred things a person has. The ability to reason for yourself and then will that behavior. And for anybody to step on it, whether it be, I mean, you said it earlier, I mean, it's your body. You own, if there's any sort of legitimate philosophical underpinning for property, it's your body. This is mine. This is mine, not anybody else's. It doesn't belong to the state. And that has massive implications across a multitude of different topics, from abortion to drug use to healthcare to policing, when they just, they decided that out of suspicion they're going to handcuff you, shackle you in chains and throw you in a cage. No, that's not okay. I mean, all sorts of things. In this country,
our Supreme Court, though, has said in effect that a woman's body is not hers.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And I look at Cuba, which has not had, the same democratic freedoms that we're used to in this country, but yet women there have the freedom to obtain an abortion.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, yeah. It's a sad thing that it happened. And I just watched a video the other day about of clips of all these conservative justice people that in their interviews or whatever in front of Congress saying that Roe versus Wade is protected. It's not. We're not going to touch it. Everything. They all just lied to the entire country, and then they get in there and that's one of the first things they do.
I'm going to say one thing. I think this is such an important issue. It's not going to go away. This will go back in front of the Supreme Court again, maybe not in our lifetime, maybe 50 years from now, but I believe that this law will be overturned. And in fact, Roe v. Wade will be reinstated. I really believe that because it is a common procedure. There may be, 600, 700, 800, a million women a year who get abortions. Yeah. Who are now not going to be able, or we're going to have a difficulty getting that. You'll have a large group of people in this country who will insist on having that. And then eventually when some of the justices on the Supreme Court retire and get replaced, you'll have a Supreme Court that will be pro-choice and women will again have that right. But it's obviously a very politicized institution, which the Supreme Court should not be.
Yeah, no, it's blatantly clear that that's what's happening here, and I don't think it's any coincidence that and there's the another thing that frustrates me is the religious impetus of it, and not that I'm knocking anybody's religion as much as it's not okay for you to impose your personal religious doctrines on other people through the law. That's not okay. Okay, everybody has their own religion. If you don't want to have it, if you're opposed to abortion, don't have one. Yeah. It's like gay marriage. Like if you're opposed to gay marriage, don't marry somebody with the same sex. Otherwise, mind your own business. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. But okay, I'm done.
Well, it makes me feel as though we don't really have separation of church and state in this country.
Sure.
That's how it comes across to me. I don't know. Other people on the podcast can comment, on their.
Yeah, because it's not like a secular based belief that abortion is morally wrong. And you can have secular morality all day. You can get to moral values just by reasoning through it to it. But like you're saying, the implications on healthcare for individual women across the board. Sometimes abortions are actually medically necessary.
Yes.
To save. I mean, and not even just rape and incest and that kind of stuff, because that's just important to allow that. But I mean, or to prohibit that. Sorry. But for other reasons too, I don't know the medical terms, but I just heard a doctor on NPR talking about this list of reasons where abortions are necessary to do to save a woman's life. And in some states, now they just have to let the woman die. That's just stupid. Okay, a zygote does not have rights like an actual person does. Okay, this ties into all sorts of political policies and doctrine and philosophies of considering what counts as a right, first of all, and who has them. Okay, an unborn child is not a person yet. Now it's going to become one. That's true. But it's not a person. Persons by definition don't have these sorts of rights. And we can go up and down with all this other stuff. But I mean, it's just in every possible way of analyzing the issue, the pro-lifers just fail, utterly fail. That's all I have to say. I don't know. Like the whole thing just annoys. And I'm not a woman, obviously.
And I wanted to say something. There's
Please.
a lot of different things people have said that kind of like, I think this is a great conversation. And you just said that, like healthcare is a right. Well, I think it should be a right, but I don't think in this country it is a right. I think healthcare is something that is bought and sold, and it's like driven by the market economy, like the capitalist economy. I mean, it's sinful when you look at the Financial Times reported United Healthcare, one of the big health and care insurance carriers, made like a 44% profit during the pandemic in 2020. Purdue Pharma. I mean, that's criminal. You had 100,000 people dying of opioid overdose in 2020 or 2019, 2020. Purdue Pharma made $4 billion, over $4 billion through sales of opioids, narcotics. I mean, it's, and that's what I see as a healthcare provider, is that decisions are made based on, based on billable units, based on like, price, cost reduction and making money. It's not based on like quality of care. That's beside the point, That's what I kind of feel like, you can, I mean, I think it's important that we fight for our rights, and we fight for health care and access to health care, and especially people who are in the front lines of those losses of services in terms of Black and brown community and stuff. But I think truly you have to kind of like, figure out like where's that all coming from? And it's kind of interesting. You guys talk about like the elections as a way of kind of like trying to resolve the question. But I don't know, like Anna, Democrat, Republican parties, they're not necessarily I don't feel like they're the friends of women or labor. I mean, Biden just recently kind of like is trying to negotiate. The railroad workers want to go on strike because of working conditions, man. If you know anybody that works on a railroad, it's ungodly, the schedule that these guys work. My husband worked on the railroad. I worked on the railroad for some years, and it's just, it's mind-boggling, the kind of the demand that the railroad expects from you in terms of your time. And they don't, and Biden basically, when the railroads were, they've been kind of trying to negotiate a new contract, but, Biden has basically imposed this legislation from the 1920s that required a cooling off, or basically requires an executive board to kind of intervene and negotiate between the rail carriers and the unions, right? But they came up with this compromise, but they didn't address none of the compromise didn't address this schedule, where it's kind of like, you're at the beck and call of the railroad to kind of come on duty. And it's, so I kind of feel like if there were more independent parties, that were kind of able to run for office, I could say that's great. Let's have a discussion. But, the elections in this country are so dominated by people that have the money.
Yep.
Right. And the people that have the money are in the Democrat and Republican parties. And like Anna, like you're talking about the Green Party, man, like what you had to go through, and you didn't even make it. You didn't get the numbers.
Right. I got more than both of them, what they needed combined.
Yeah.
And I still couldn't get on. So
how democratic is that? They're just so afraid of like, having a real legitimate discussion about what's going on, and what kind of solutions might come up in the meetings, in the discussions, right? I wish there was an independent, more independent political political parties that were on the platform, and talking about like, policies and how do what's the answer in terms of healthcare and workers' rights, but
Our country is still predominantly run by white male European men. I mean, that's did I say male? But did I say men twice?
And
But yeah, I mean, it's just
and Christian, should put that in there.
Christian. I wanted to. I was trying to avoid it, but yes, you're absolutely correct. Because again, this the abortion thing predominantly. I mean, I don't know anybody who's pro-life not for religious reasons. I don't know one. Right? I mean, does anybody know a person who's pro-life for non-religious reasons?
I don't know.
I'm not saying that
I don't know anyone. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not saying there isn't an argument from that.
It's not an easy. I have a friend of mine who she's gone with me to these demonstrations. She personally is not supportive of abortions for herself, and it's based, I don't think it's religious because she's not religious, but it's kind of like, it's like it is a big decision to make.
Oh, absolutely.
When you made the decision to have an abortion, I'm sure it was like, very a heavy decision to kind of like think through. I had an abortion. It wasn't easy. And then so it's not something you take lightly, right?
No, it is a big decision. It's a life-changing decision.
Yeah,
it's a pivotal decision.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know lots of women who say, personally for me, my personal morality says I wouldn't do it, but I would never impose that on anybody legally. I know that's true. I do know plenty of people will say that, but I'm talking about like the people who want to impose the law on the people legally. I don't know anybody who isn't trying to do that or advocating for that from a non-religious point of view. I don't know one, but anyway.
Yeah.
Anna, you're smiling.
No, I was just looking at the clock. We're coming up too close to being completing the hour here. So just wanted to say we have a little bit of a thing from the Illinois Green Party platform. I'm just going to read really quickly. The Illinois Green Party supports the goal of making every child a wanted child, defends and support women's full right to reproductive choice, including genuine social support for those who choose to bear children, affordable access to safe abortion for those who do not, and better sex education and access to contraceptions for all. And we are motivated by considerations of gender equality, privacy, and civil rights consistent with Green Party values. And so I like that as making sure every child is a wanted child, making sure that there's no lunch debt, education, and healthcare. So that's kind of a lot of these answers in politics. I believe a lot of these problems in politics kind of have an intersectional relationship to each other, that the solution can be solve a few different problems, because we just don't have the time anymore to take these on one by one either. We need immediate action, and I'm glad that these 31 organizations, and we'll say hundreds of people came down to Chicago. I would say probably many of them joined the march while we were marching, because we only had maybe a handful of hundreds of people at the rally during the speaking event. So just wanted to good job, Chicago, for coming out for this issue. And unfortunately, though, I think we'll have to march again.
That's right.
Karen, did you want to have any final last thoughts on this podcast?
Thanks for allowing me to be part of the podcast and get the word out about aid access. It's much appreciated. I think it's a great resource for women.
Thank you. Julie, how about you? Why don't you go through your week of protesting?
Well, here, I'm just going to show you what we're doing in Chicago. This is can you see the poster?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So basically it's February. November the 2nd at Federal Building at noon. And we're calling for an end to the U.S. blockade on Cuba. And end anti-Cuba sanctions and travel sanctions, and take Cuba off of Washington's list of state sponsors of terrorism. And I want to encourage everybody to come and join us at the picket line. And I mean, I'll be at the next, the next demonstration. I'm sure I'll probably run into you guys again.
Well, keep fighting the good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was down there for the global strike protest too, like the week before. So.
Yeah.
It's been nice enjoying my fall in Chicago. David?
Yeah.
Did you have anything you want to close us out?
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Illinois Green Party. I am your 1/3 of a host today, David Rich, with our guests, Karen, Julie, and our special co-host tonight, Anna. All right. Thank you, everybody. Till next time, be good, be green.
Bye.